Hello, this is Lolly with another one of my Crafts Gone By videos. And Crafts Gone By just means crafts that I used to do a long time ago. And I had either dropped the ball or just haven't gotten back into them for a long time. So I used to do a lot more with Sculpey clay, especially in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, when I was a D.O.T.S demonstrator. And the only way I had to roll this out was I would take two rulers, which I don't have two identical ones right now, but assuming that these were identical, which they're not, they would need to be the same height, and wooden rulers work the best. I would soften the clay and put it between the two rulers and roll them out, and the rulers would keep the rolling pin up off the table exactly the same all the way throughout, so the clay wouldn't be, bumpy. I would rotate the clay now and then, and it was sandwiched between two layers of like plastic film, and it was a really good method. I usually use two of these because they're nice and thick, and then I would use a rubber stamp to stamp the image, and in ink too. And I don't remember this was one of the D.O.T.S ink pads as well, and so the color has faded into a light purple. This one I had used the pearl, you can see there, this was made in 1996. I had used the pearl white Sculpey clay, and it's kind of got more of a sheen to it, and then I colored it in with marker, which gave it a very soft look to it. So if you use a solid white, it's easier to color, and paints work better than markers. But I had baked it first according to package instruction, rolled it out, baked it, and then when it was cooled, I had taken markers to it, and then I sealed it with, I think it was a clear spray, clear Krylon. So for this guy, I had also handmade a nose for him, and his cheeks used to be pink. That's faded over time, and I glued buttons, and I made a little Santa kind of snowman hat to put on him and glued a little hanger so he could be an ornament. So that was one of them. This one was also with marker, but it was on just the solid white clay instead of this frosty stuff, so it took the marker better, but still this was red, and you can tell by the color how it's changed. So with this one, before I baked it, I had punched holes in it. I don't remember what I used to punch the holes, but I punched the holes in the clay, and it's pretty thick too. You can see the dimensions there. And then I baked it, and then this is fun. It was, I can't remember what it's called, but it was like a little tube of something you would squirt there, let it dry, and then heat it, and it would rise up and get puffy. So he used to have like a fuzzy beard and hat, and it's kind of faded throughout the time. And this was a spiral notebook coil that I took off the notebook before recycling it. And this is a nice bright one, so you can see the difference between the colors. This one, when it was also the same clay, and I don't know what ink pad I had used, but this one stayed nice and black. But see, I didn't put the year on the back of this one. After it had cooled, I used acrylic paints to paint him, and then I used like something like glossy accents on each one of the little Christmas lights, and a gold pin on each of the metal part of the light. I also glued a red rhinestone, a little fuzzy ball for his hat, and I glued some white clear glass beads in the snow down here. So, and then it was given, I sprayed it first before putting this on there, otherwise it would have dulled the little rhinestone there. And then I made these. See, all of these were stamps that I had from D.O.T.S at the time. And then I made these guys, and these were some of my favorite ones to make. And I had the kids making these ones as gifts, for Christmas ornaments for gifts. Again, they're not dated either. After baking and painting and spraying, then I also stamped him on a piece of paper and cut out the vest here. And I used that as a pattern to cut out black, kind of a fake velvet to make the vest. So it's really velvety, it's really sweet. And then I glued this on there right there. Okay, very cute. Now, since then, that was late 90s, but what I had done since then is my Serenity Crafts had started she does a lot with clay, and it just fascinated me. So I started playing around with clay at the same time because she was inspiring me. And so I was cutting it, doing it pretty thin, compared to how thick this was. And I was putting like perfect pearls on them. And that's a rubber stamp, that key, but I was also embellishing them. Some of the things, like this one is just clay that I rolled and I wrapped it around a gemstone there. You had to use a glass. You can't, bake something with plastic on it. So the perfect pearls are great for this. Things like this, they're buttons, and so I would push them down into the clay before baking, and then I would take them off, bake it, and then glue them down into the holes that I had created. See, what Sarah was doing was she was making a whole bunch of these tiles like this, and then she was gluing them on around picture frames, and she was gluing them on notebooks and making them look like little tiles. They are so cute. I really like them. More of them. And so I was having a blast, and my goal was at the time is that I was going to keep on making these and get a whole set of them put together, and then I was going to do what she did and make a big mosaic with it. Still getting these out of there. Ooh, I like that one with the Eiffel Tower. I haven't even looked at these in a long time, so it's new to me as well. And I also have, in this little tray, I have little collections of beads and things that I want to glue onto some of my new pieces of clay. So what happened was I was, going full strong in doing this. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit so you can see these better. There you go. I was making these, and then I broke my arm and I couldn't roll out the clay. And of course, I always thought as soon as my arm healed enough to roll out clay, I was going to start making these again. Well, then I got interested in pocket letters. So, it completely took me away from this. And I would love to come back and start doing this again. They're so beautiful. And even this one has little glass beads right on the corner. No, these are nowhere near as beautiful as Sarah's on her channel. She does an amazing job with these, and she has so many. But anyway, that's my clay crafts gone by with Sculpey clay. And I really did enjoy. I love the look of these. This is just amazing to me. I think it's gorgeous. And my daughter, when I was doing this, she bought me this, which I still haven't done. It's called the Kaweco Fantasy Pen. And this pen is made, so if you can see this, it's recessed here and here. So you actually roll out clay like this. You stamp it out and you roll it around the pen there and there on the barrel, and you bake it so that your pen basically is going to look like one of these wrapped all the way around it. Very interesting, but that's the way it's made. There's actually a website, and see, it's a fountain pen. It's so beautiful. I think part of me is I love this. I was so intimidated. I didn't want to mess it up. Those feelings about I want to do a really good job in this, and so I'm afraid to touch it. But I love this. I love the tin. I love everything about it. And part of it was like, I want to know where I'm headed with it before I do it. And I know I want to use these brilliant colors, the perfect pearls, before I do it. And another reason that I didn't do it right away was I wanted one of those. The Sculpey it's like a pasta machine where you put the clay in and you crank it out, and it sends out a perfect flat sheet of clay. And so you don't have to use the rulers with the rolling pin in between. And so I wanted one of those, and by the time that I finally got one, like I said, I was so distracted by paper crafts again that I never came back to do this. So, like, here's some example of some of the flat, pieces that come out of the machine when you roll it out. So yeah, that's it. I'll show you the colors of these before I go so you can see what it looks like on the back. That was black. There's a lot of tan, black, and blue, and brown. No, browns. These are dark brown clay, and that's what I have used for these pieces here. So that's that. Thank you for watching. I will give you a link to Sarah's channel. I'll see if I can find some of her clay ones. It's been a while. It was a couple years ago that I was doing this because she was, and she really inspired me, and I thought that might be something interesting for you to look at. Let me pull these back in here. And I had just promised that I was going to make sure I stayed on camera, and I forgot to set up my iPad already, so I'm sorry. I do have a system where I can record on my phone while watching an iPad to make sure I'm staying in camera, and I forgot because I zoomed in, and then once I do that, I forget to zoom back out. So I hope I was in camera, in frame. That's my clay collection. Thank you for watching.